www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
This is Brian Fulford. A.D. Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
I'm returning to Clinton Parish, and Tampa's my community. I grew up here, went to school here, and my wife and I make our home here. What makes Tampa special are its people. So when I represent someone injured in my community, it's personal. Call my office and speak to a real lawyer and not some referral service. I will fight the insurance companies to get the settlement that you deserve. At the law office of Clinton Parish, we take the pain out of being hurt.
This is the Dean of the College of HBCU Sports, Kenyatta Cavill of Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Come mix it up in the lab where the course lecture is in session every Tuesday from 6 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live, YouTube Spreaker, or the BCSN app, as we discuss all things about the HBCU sports culture, including exploring the week that was in the sporting HBCU diaspora, as well as the upcoming week of HBCU sports. With me, the Dean, the College of HBCU Sports, on Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Course lecture dismissed.
Sugar Chateau Desserts is a specialty bakery located in the Charlotte, North Carolina metro area. We will create delicious and one-of-a-kind treats for any occasion. Sugar Chateau is currently shipping cakes in a jar, offering a variety of different flavors in a single-serve container that can help you celebrate in accordance with social distancing. Place your orders today by calling 803-526-7895 or visiting sugarchateaudesserts.com.
Follow the Black College Sports Network and all of our shows on YouTube. You can find us at MyJBN Online and on all social media at MyBCSN1.
The Cuvée Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cuvée.
Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique to spice up your closet with trendy, unique looks. We have fashionable and chic looks at very affordable prices. Velvet Boutique offers free shipping all year long on all orders. Shop online at www.melvetboutique.com. That's www.melvetboutique.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. Shop Velvet Online Women's Boutique.
Q Time is a classic Atlanta soul food restaurant located in the historic West End. Q Time Soul Food is a family business started by Fred and Christine Crenshaw. Come on in, relax, and sink your chops into our tantalizing, mouth-watering, distinctive soul food with a twist, the Q Time way. 1120 Ralph David Abernathy Boulevard, or call your order in at 404-758-2881. Do you miss your mama's cooking? Then come on down to Q Time, an Urban Passport member.
Have you had your Earth Blend coffee today? At Earth Blend Coffee, we take pride in offering you the very best of beans across the world, blended and roasted to perfection, giving you superior quality and satisfying and flavorful taste. Experience the world in one cup with Earth Blend Coffee.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties. Through its programs, Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
This is Ryan Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN Sports Wrap. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN Sports Wrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids' apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
I'm returning to Clinton Parish, and Tampa's my community. I grew up here, went to school here, and my wife and I make our home here. What makes Tampa special are its people. So when I represent someone injured in my community, it's personal. Call my office and speak to a real lawyer and not some referral service. I will fight the insurance companies to get the settlement that you deserve. At the law office of Clinton Parish, we take the pain out of being heard.
All right, guys, welcome into Everyday People. I'm your host, Pete Almeida Jr. On another Monday, thank you so much for taking some time to be with us. Appreciate that. If you are watching this, and I pray that you do, it's going to really be a great show tonight. You're watching this through the myjbn.com app. And so if you're on my page, Pete Almeida Jr., click on that link with myjbn.com and it'll take you directly to the show. For some reason, we're having some challenges where when we were running commercials or advertisements or even playing music, it was just chopping the video right up. So please go ahead. It's not a mistake. JBN is our partner, and that's the Jericho Broadcast Network out of Atlanta, Georgia. Click on that link. It'll take you to the broadcast, and we'll just get the show started, jump right into it. Thank you again for taking some time out of your busy day, which I hope and pray was a really good Monday and a great weekend. Tom Brady, man, that dude did it again. And those of you who know me know that I am a New England native. So while it was just weird to see him in a Bucs uniform, number 12, the results still the same. I can't believe this guy has won more Super Bowls than any team, never mind any person, any team, any franchise in the history of football. It's just absolutely crazy. So it was cool to see the game. The halftime show was a little bit desired, but nonetheless, it was cool to watch the game. Again, thanks so much for joining us today. If you were on my Facebook page today, and you look at the pictures, and the pictures, under the pictures, above the pictures was a caption, and the caption was mental health, from chaos to calm, or should I say to control, from chaos to control. And one of the things that I have been really, it's been a passion of mine, and I'm going to get into it in just a couple of seconds here, is mental health. And really focusing on mental health and wellness, particularly in Black and Brown communities, where oftentimes We don't discuss those things, and we're going to get into that in just a couple of seconds. But for those of you who don't know, I lost my brother to mental health. As in fact, he took his own life in 19, and actually, I'm sorry, it's been 15 years this year. I can't believe it. No, 14. I'm sorry. It was 2007. I know that because my son wasn't even a year old, and he'll be 15. So it's been 14 years this year, and he wasn't even 30 years old. And so that started the journey. And then honestly, dealing with my own mental health and wellness challenges has been significant, has played a significant part in my life. And so it started back in 1995. In fact, the story begins. I was a senior in college, and I'll never forget this. I'll never forget this. I remember it like it was yesterday, even though it was 26 years ago. I was taking a final exam in my sociology class, and I knew I was prepared. I had studied for the exam, and I remember just blanking out. Like I couldn't think, I couldn't concentrate, I couldn't focus. And if you watch the previous episode on mental health with Marquita Mark, I share a little bit of this story on that as well. But I couldn't focus. And I never forget, I left the exam and I just kept shaking my head. I was walking with my friend Michelle, and I was like, I don't know what happened in there. I just went blank. Oh, well, fast forward a couple of months, and maybe, several months later, I'll say I went to the doctor and I was diagnosed with ADD. Now, at that time, this is 1995, we didn't know what we know now about ADD. And so I didn't know what it was about. I'm gonna tell you what I knew about ADD. I knew that kids that got it, and mostly at the time in the population I was working with, I was a youth director at the YMCA. It was my first job out of college. I knew young white kids got it, and they took Ritalin to calm them down. That's all I knew about ADD. And so I didn't know anything about ADD in adults, how it worked. And so you're talking about fast forwarding now, this is 2021. That's a 26-year battle and year journey. And I'm going to get into some more of the specifics with that. And so for me, again, coupled with what happened to my own brother in terms of mental health, his issues, and then my own issues, not just with adult ADHD, but also depression mixed in there. And they kind of work hand in hand. Well, I'll say for me, they've worked hand in hand. And so that's how I became passionate on this particular subject. And I don't want to quote all the statistics for you guys. I want to get right into the meat of the conversation. And please feel free. As I said last week, I don't want this to be a one-way conversation. If you have thoughts, if you have something to contribute, please go ahead and do that. What you have to say is very important. And I want to let you all know, especially because we're talking about mental health. This is a sacred and a safe space for you to share publicly, or if you want to share something privately, you're welcome to do that. But one of the things that's important is we can't keep these things bottled up inside. And that's been, my journey and my challenge over the last 20 some odd years. There's been times where I've really, really had a good grip on some of these things. And there's been times, quite frankly, where I haven't. And I felt like I was suffering in silence and suffering alone. And that's one thing I do not want for you guys out there, is to suffer in silence. If you don't get anything else out of this broadcast, just know that you don't have to suffer in silence, and that this actually help out there for you in your recovery, in being able to talk through and work through some of these issues. And so I just wanted y'all to know that, and again, create the environment for us to have a dialogue, because I think it's really, really important. So again, going back to 95, I didn't do anything. And I think it was 1997, I got some medication, and I don't know what it was called at the time. It wasn't what I'm taking currently now, but it was something. And I took it for a while, and it really helped me. It helped me focus. It helped me remember things. Because if you don't know anything about ADHD, especially in adults, what we have to deal with is very real. Some people kind of play, say, hey, I got ADHD and whatever, but it's a real diagnosis, and it affects people in real ways. And some of the things that I have personally dealt with and wrestled with in the last 20 plus years is forgetfulness, sometimes irritability, not being able to follow through a complete task. So I'll start one thing and then just leave that there and start another thing and leave that there. Not being able to organize either my thoughts or actually organize my space. That's a huge one. And so this can have a catastrophic effect on a person's personal life, and it has me, on my work life, and it has. And I'll just go one further and say, back years ago, it cost me a job, to be honest with you, because I was not getting the proper treatment that I needed to. I'm not making any excuses. I'm just giving y'all real facts and real information from my own story. It can affect relationships. Because you kind of all scatterbrained sometimes. You're not able to concentrate on something so long. If your partner is talking to you, you can kind of be fidgeting or thinking about other things. And I don't know about you, but in any relationship, if a person doesn't feel like you're giving them your undivided attention, that can cause some real challenges, honestly. So yours truly has wrestled with all that. And one of the things that we know, especially in Black and Brown communities, is that we have many people who are dealing with mental health issues and challenges. And especially, in Black and Brown communities, we are faced with so many traumas, outwardly out there and internally. Right. We have seen so many traumas in the last 12 months with all of what's happening, what happened to George Floyd, and all of that. That's community trauma, especially as a Black man and as a father. I know I had to find somebody to be able to talk through what I was feeling and experiencing going through that. And so being able to find that person to do that is very, very important, that kind of trauma. But we also know from the research is that we know 1 in 3 folks of color will not and are not getting the proper help that they need for mental health. And that's significant. That's catastrophic. You're talking about hundreds of thousands and maybe even hundreds of thousands, millions of people who are out there, who are struggling, who are suffering. And let's just go one further. As men, right? As men, we're not prone to talk about how we're feeling. In fact, I don't know about you out there, but if you're a man, we're raised in a culture of patriarchy where, we're supposed to be a man. Hey, just toughen up. You're supposed to be a man. You're supposed to do this. You're supposed to do this. And, I struggle with that and wrestle with that. But number one, I would say this: how are you supposed to be something that you have never seen modeled? In other words, if someone's telling you, be a man or be a woman, how are you supposed to, what does that look like? What are the characteristics of that when you haven't seen it consistently? I'll say that some people have never seen it. I have worked with people here in my community work over the last 20 plus years. I have never seen what manhood looks like, what a representation of that looks like. I have seen that in young ladies that I have worked with. So how are you supposed to be a man, whatever that means, be a woman, when you haven't seen it modeled, maybe ever, but maybe not even consistently? So, and again, I'm speaking more to men. And so sisters, y'all are welcomed in on this conversation, not forgetting you, acknowledging you, because I know people who have undergone, women who have undergone significant mental health challenges and are getting the assistance, have gotten the help that they need to heal and be able to move forward and be able to function as a productive member. Because when you're struggling and wrestling with mental health issues, it can impede your functioning. So back to the brothers, back to the men, a lot of times we don't want to seek help. We're afraid to seek help. Because we're supposed to be X, Y, and Z. You're supposed to do this. You're supposed to do that. You're supposed to do this. And again, if A, you haven't seen it modeled, and B, you're wrestling with mental health issues, it's going to be very hard to do the said this, that, and the other. And so I want to speak to our men and then speak to our people at large, where we have persistent symptoms. And I'm talking about mental health. I'm talking about we have persistent symptoms of such things as emotional distress, as I mentioned earlier. What about sadness? What about a feeling of hopelessness? Anyone out there currently hopeless or have felt hopeless here recently. Those things, if not dealt with, can have a significant impact on our functioning, as I stated earlier, and can keep us from, rob us of really the healthy life that I believe all of us not only desire, right, but really deserve. And so we know a lot of people aren't getting treatment for that. Why? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the reasons, a couple of reasons. We could talk about this all day long. We could do a whole series. And I'm going to actually have a panel in the future of some other voices to be able to come and share their experience with you as well. But one of the reasons why, and again, speaking specifically to Black and brown communities, is a stigma. Listen, there is a stigma in our communities that mental health is a sign of personal weakness. Does anyone out there agree? There's a stigma in our community that mental health is a sign of personal weakness. And you've probably heard it before. I know I've heard it in the spaces that I've walked in. Oh, ain't nothing wrong with you. Oh, you just need to do this, or you just need to do that. And so what happens is people with good intentions who don't understand mental health will try to give you simple prescriptions and try to fix you when you are wondering, okay, I hear you, but I don't, because I can't get out of bed and I don't understand why. I don't want to interact with people. I want to be with myself. I'm drained mentally and emotionally every day, where it's affecting my productivity on my job. And so while people aren't good intended, the stigma is there that we don't oftentimes get the help we need because it's a sign of personal weakness. Number two, fear. Anybody here wrestle with fear? Anybody? Come on, be honest. Remember I said this is a safe space. Does anybody here wrestle with fear, y'all? Fear. Fear of what? Fear of how others are going to perceive you. Listen, fear can rob us of the best that life has to offer. Fear can rob us of the best life has to offer. Why? Because we are afraid of what said person or people or community are going to think about us if we say we are struggling with our mental and emotional health. Especially, again, in the Black and brown community, we are taught that we are supposed to do this and be this and do this. And when we're not doing this and being this, we're falling short. And then we feel a sense of inadequacy and insecurity. I'll just speak to me. This is Pete. Things that I have wrestled with. And then that makes you feel depressed and disappointed. And then that tail spins and nosedives into, a longer term depression. And then for me, having ADD, that's a whole nother set of issues on top of feeling depressed. Like I said earlier, for me, it's worked one and the same. One has affected the other. So a fear. Wow, what if I tell said person, whether it be your significant other, your partner, a family member, a coworker, a trusted friend, if I tell them that I'm going through this, if I tell them, and I'm not just, let me just say this too, I'm not just talking about when it gets to the extreme. I'm not just talking about when it gets to the extreme when you feel suicidal and you have thoughts of ending your life or your life doesn't matter. I'm talking about you get that thing inside that you don't know how to necessarily articulate it or talk about it, but something is off. Something is going on inside of my head or in my mind or in my circumstances, and I don't know how to articulate it, but it seems off. When you get that little, I don't know what it is, that little yearning or something that is not just right. Is there somebody out there that you trust, number one, that you can talk to in a safe place, in a safe space where you don't feel judged? Or are you afraid because everyone's looking to you and you're supposed to be this? You fill in the blanks, man. You have a great career, or you're supposed to have things together because you're the provider for your house, or you're trying to lead people in this way, whatever it is. And so when we talk about mental health issues, many times I have found and I have seen, I guess, in our community, people are shocked. Oh my God, I didn't know said person went through this. I didn't know this person was going through that. Like people last year, I remember, I'm a big sports fan, as you guys don't know. I remember when some of the athletes were in the bubble, the basketball, NBA, were in a bubble. So they played down in Disney World because it was, they were able to test every day and stuff. And thankfully they were able to get through the season, but it was tough. And being quarantined, literally, I mean, yeah, it was Disney World, but they were still quarantined. They couldn't, many of them, most of them couldn't have been around their families for months at a time. That weighs on you from a health perspective. And I remember some of the players were sharing that they were wrestling with that. And even some of the responses to that on social media where people were shocked or surprised. And I'm like, no, this is real, man. This mental health stuff is real. We have to take this stuff very, very seriously. So many of us, including yours truly, are afraid. We're afraid of what people are going to think, especially in social media, man. Social media, oftentimes we put on our best face and we put on our best lipstick and we put on our best dress and we put on our best suit and it's literally and also figuratively. And we get out there and we present ourselves to the world and we use all these filters. And I'm not knocking any of that, y'all. You know me, I'm not trying to judge nobody, but you follow what I'm saying. And we present ourselves this way. And then when we're not on camera, when no one's looking at us, when we're by ourselves, when we're dealing with our own thoughts, sometimes we are bombarded and overwhelmed. Again, these emotional distresses and traumas are very real. We know that. Listen, we know everybody has been affected by this pandemic. We know there are millions, literally, of people who are out of work. We know there are millions of people who are still filing unemployment. This is just a quick aside, man, but let's not get comfortable because of the vaccine, a potential vaccine out there. Yeah, thank God there's something that can help us, particularly our frontline workers, our seniors, people with pre-existing conditions, those communities, vulnerable communities, those frontline workers. Yeah, that's great. Well, I'm glad there's a resource out there, but let's not get it twisted and comfortable, man. This pandemic is long from over, and we know that there's another strain, according to some of the healthcare professionals. Dr. Fauci was talking about it. So there's a variant strain coming out of the UK that's more serious. It's not to freak anybody out or make us afraid, but let's not get comfortable in that. Okay, let's not get comfortable and go back to normal. So I'm saying all to say people are dealing with all these issues. These issues, guys, are very, very real issues. And people are emotionally spent. I know that. I work in an environment where people don't want to mask up anymore. And people are willing to put their health on the line for said entertainment, and part of me gets that because I've been wearing a mask. And so we're dealing with very real issues when it comes to, the pandemic and those real emotional traumas. But how do we deal with that? Do we just buck it up and suck it up, whatever that means, and just try to do the best we can? Or are we able to emotionally function? Are we able to get the help we need when we're going through these kind of traumas? This one, and I shared this one again in a previous episode, is a huge one for me, and I'm going to be very specific and share my own experiences as honestly as I can, is that oftentimes we mistaken mental health for issues of faith, or we say issues of faith for mental health. What do I mean by that? We oftentimes, and I have been in environments where we have spiritualized mental health, and Black and brown communities, especially Black communities where, the Black church is central. Look, I live in Mississippi in the South. It's the heart of the Black church in many respects. And the Black church is a central figure in many of the Black communities here. It's a refuge and should be a safe haven. But one of the things that I would say is that we have mistaken spirituality for mental health issues. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, we can't just, and I know I'm telling you what I know and I've experienced. I'm not just making up things and trying to diss anybody's church. So don't think I'm trying to do that. But I'm telling you, I've been in environments where people have tried to pray and rebuke depression away and rebuke depression off of people. And I'm not saying that God, the creator, cannot supernaturally heal if that's what the desire is. I'm not saying that. but it's a dangerous perspective in the sense of your people dealing with very mental health issues. So what if you do that and the person doesn't get healed? Does that mean they didn't have enough faith? And so it always bothered me, that narrative, because there are people who are dealing with very mental health issues that need some real assistance and real help. And so while we have prayer counselors in many of these establishments, institutions, church institutions, how many churches have mental health centers? I'm back. How many churches have mental health professionals on staff? That's different than somebody just praying for you. And again, I'm not knocking that or criticizing that. Hear me out. I'm saying, how many people, how many places of worship have mental health professionals that we can get the help that we need, more than just someone laying hands on us or slowing some oil on us or whatever and praying for us or running to the pastor? That is not his job, or that is not her job to be all things to all people, which is why so many people are experiencing burnout. How many places, and I get it, I understand, listen, not every place of worship can maybe afford to bring somebody on staff, but I know many of these institutions are built off volunteers. Okay, many of these churches are built off the backs of volunteers. In other words, many people who are on paid staff are volunteering for free. So how many people who are mental health professionals and are willing to do it, are willing to give some of their time? How many of them are being empowered to be able to at least just be present and available for people dealing with mental health issues, even if it's just for initial intake, somebody to talk to, where they're not going to try to spiritualize these issues, y'all. I'm telling you, look, listen, I have been around spiritual environments in some way, shape, or form for 30 years. And I have seen spiritual abuse. I have seen spiritual abuse that have destroyed and damaged many people. And I've also seen spiritual neglect, where people were going through mental health and they were bypassed. And I said I was going to be transparent. So let me just share my experience. I was at a place of worship at the particular time, and I went to somebody and I shared with them my experience. And not only did I share my experience, I shared, I'll be honest, I shared those photos. And just so you guys know, those photos are not of some random person. They're not of some person that I know. Those photos that I took were from my own apartment. Yes, that was from my own space, where my ADD and depression got so bad that I could not control my home. I could not organize my papers. I could not clean up. And so I sent some of those photos to this particular person, and they were in a place of leadership. And we had lunch, and they saw the pictures, and they prayed for me. And I'm gonna be straight up, I lost respect for them. In fact, I hadn't talked to them. I didn't talk to them after that day. Now, I would go to this place of worship at the time, and I would see this particular person, and I would talk to them, and I would see them, but I wouldn't say nothing. Why? Because I was pissed. I was pissed and I was hurt that you would minimize this. Listen, when people share with you that they're going through something, when you're talking about mental health, it is a huge risk. This is something that I'm telling you, and again, Black and brown communities, most of us, particularly as men, we keep private. So if a person is taking a risk to share with you, they don't want you to try to fix them. They don't want you to give them a simple solution. They want you to be compassionate. They want you to be understanding. And to be perfectly honest with you, many times they want you to be willing to jump into the boat with them to help bail this water out. When you feel that overwhelmed, y'all, where your boat is sinking, you need some help. And if a person is willing to go to somebody and share with them, and all they're getting are solutions, all they're getting, well, why don't you just, and the person told me, well, why don't you just do this and start small and clean up? No, damn it, I needed your help. I didn't need you to try to fix it. I didn't need you to try to tell me what to do. You don't think I try to do that? And so I'm not saying that the person wasn't well-meaning and well-intentioned, But when you are going through that, you don't need well-meaning and well-intentioned people. There's a whole lot of well-meaning and well-intentioned people out there. You need some people who are willing and able to jump into the foxhole with you and say, I may not be able to understand all this, but I am with you. And I'm telling you, when that happened to me, my life changed completely. And so after that happened, I told that person, oh, I don't know, this is going back a couple of years. It didn't get better. It got worse. It got worse. Look at those pictures on my page, Pete Almeida Jr., if you don't believe me. That's of my apartment. And one of those is my kitchen. Let me tell you something. I couldn't even cook meals for myself because my kitchen was full of stuff and crap. And so I wasn't hoarding. I wasn't going to flea markets and trying to buying all these trinkets and books and stuff like that. It was that I was dealing with such mental health. I was so overwhelmed. I was emotionally drained. I could not give myself energy to clean up my space. And the apartment wasn't that big. And I will go one further. Okay. I will be honest and vulnerable and go one further. You know, my own child had to see that. No, my child didn't stay with me at the time. But when he came over, he saw that. And it was very